Hello, everyone. This is Tony, and I'm doing the audio commentary for The Michigan Files Returns. Yes, this actually happened. The Michigan Files Returns, Season 4, Episode 5 of the New York Files. It aired in September. We recorded in August. So, what is the story behind all this? How did this all come about? Why did it all come about? Just what happened. That's a good story. It all started way back in April when I moved from Michigan to New York. When I moved from Michigan to New York, I left some stuff behind in Michigan. And one of those things I left behind was my laptop, which had some original files on it from, I have to talk about this logo for a second. I really love that. Probably one of the best things I had done with Blender ever. And we just got through doing a new logo for the New York Files. 2, I apologize. Which will be introduced with the premiere of the 6th season. So anyway. So I had left some stuff behind. One of the things I left behind was my laptop, and that was part 1. It was me realizing I needed to grab the laptop, and part 2 was we got a message a couple days before this trip from my father, and he had basically said, you need to come back to grab this stuff, because if you don't, I swear to God, I'm going to take it and I'm going to throw it out into the front lawn and it'll be for sale. So I'm like, well, I got no choice now. Can't back out. And so our adventure begins, as they say in Pokemon. And so the adventure continues. So that kind of describes all that. So we planned this trip out, and we ended up going for 3 days. And my plan was originally to shoot for all 3 days, because we were going to shoot all night Friday and all morning Saturday, which is what we did. But then we were going to shoot some stuff of, coming home and seeing, everyone. I don't know, for some reason, like what we always do, we always hold back on that. We don't know why, but we do. And then we shot the stuff coming back. So, yeah, it was so interesting too, because this first part was 35 minutes, and I'm like, oh, so the next part's gonna be like 20 to 25 minutes. I know we didn't shoot much, but given all the recordings we've had, we should have shot a lot. And no, we didn't. We didn't shoot a lot, so we ended up only having 15 minutes for the next section. So overall, this special, if we were to combine everything together, it'd be about, God, I want to say 50 minutes to an hour. It's not much, but it's still a lot. So this is the New York Thruway, and the interesting thing about this Thruway is that there is nothing unique about it. It's just a stretch of highway that you have to pay a toll to go through, which for me it is just kind of insane that you would pay a lot of money to go through this highway, and all the businesses are literally to the left or the right of you. You can't go to the ones on the right, but you can go to the ones on the left. And the businesses are so interestingly set up. It's 4 restaurants. Your usual, souvenir shop, stop, and gas station. That's how they literally set it up. And it's cool in some ways, but in other ways it's like, you could really benefit from a lot. Having all these businesses just being like a plaza. But not like a plaza where they're all in one building, a plaza where they're all, surrounded around, like in a square. Or at least one end and another end. I don't know where I'm getting at. My point is, it's interesting, but paying to go through this was kind of stupid. It felt stupid. But not as stupid as the bridge tolls. But yeah. But we shot this, God, 10 at night, 9, 10 at night, and we were shooting. This whole first day of shooting was from 9, 10 at night to, I want to say, 10 in the morning. But there is a mistake I've noticed, and I didn't catch it the first time, but I noticed it when we were setting up part 2, doing the editing. We accidentally threw a clip from part 2 into part 1. And, yeah, I didn't notice until it was too late, and by the time, it kind of came, yeah, we weren't gonna really think about it as much anymore. But the editing on this one was so, God, I want to say it was smooth and fluent, that if you were to take away that mistake, I apologize. If you were to take away that mistake, probably wouldn't change much. Well, of course it would change the time, but it wouldn't change much. So yeah, this was also a lot of firsts though for us. This was the first time we had traveled to another state in the context of the series. I know in the Michigan Files we'd never really done that, and we had close calls where we wanted to do it, but we decided not to. But here it was the first time, and it was essentially just going back. Just going back to shoot a Michigan Files episode, which I guess you could just say, it's Alpena number 4. But that was literally it, and this whole trip, I think overall cost me like $200 just for all the expenses, and that's not including the expense, to buy stuff over there. But $200, and it was nice to see my family again. Now the real question is, would I go back and do it again? And this is something I have actually been in talks with a couple people thinking about it. Going back and doing a Michigan Files Returns again, or Returns 2, or Strikes Back. As those are the tentative titles we're thinking of for essentially going back again. The real question is, do we have the time? Would we have the time? Could we find the time to go back and do it again, just to visit this time? We have a lot of stuff that we want to do for the New York Files. But, it is nice to try to go back and recapture some of that glory. And I can actually talk about one of the things I wanted to do in this special that I didn't get to do, which kind of sucked because it would have been a great montage of episodes. We, at one point, were deciding, well, depending on which way we wanted to go, if we were going to go through Canada, well, of course, by the time we got to Canada, everything was closed. But if we were to have gone to, gone through Ohio and up through Michigan, there's a lot of shops you could stop at from this point in time to this point in time, because some of these shops are open 24 hours. And my thinking at that point was, God, we could shoot a lot of, stops and pickups, and, we got this, we found this here, and we decided not to. I think against our better judgment, we decided not to. God, it would have been a great idea thinking about it now, and I still want to do that idea of just a travel log where when you get to the location, you don't really buy much. You've bought everything on your way to the location. But yeah, and this was still, I want to say this was still around the time we were thinking of Retro Game Con, because that was coming in November, and we were talking about still going, and then we didn't, and this was kind of it. But I'm still bringing it up now, and I might want to do it for 2018. We don't know. God, New York Thruway had like no advertisements, which is strange actually now that I think about it, because Canada was the same way. No advertisements, nothing. It was just nothing but straight straight highway. It's just so weird. But I don't know if it's maybe cultural differences or if just on the thruway they decided, you know what, let's not throw any advertisements on here. Or that it was too dark to see anything. That could also be a clever reason. I think when we were shooting all this, I think our rules were shoot 15 minutes of footage in each place, or 5 to 15. So yeah, you could shoot anywhere, or I think 11 minutes. I don't remember what the exact rules were of how we shot this. I think it was 11 minutes of footage in each place, or 11. Yeah, it'd have to be 11 minutes. Because we're still on the thruway footage. But it is interesting to look through all this and to and to see your yesteryears go by, because this was like the last big thing we did, and then we did the leftover special in October, and then that was the end of the 4th season. The 4th season was actually really long. If you include these episodes, the clip show episode, this episode, and the next episode into that season, we did 10 episodes. That right there could have been 2 seasons worth of shows. That could have been seasons 4 and 5, but instead that was all season 4. And we came to the logistical thought of, well, since the Michigan Files Returns was technically a special, will this count as part of the Michigan Files? And that's kind of what it came to be. Was the New York Files was episodes 1 through 3, and then episodes 7 to 10. But the Michigan Files Returns, which was technically part of the Michigan Files quote-unquote 4th season revival, as we decided to put it, was episodes 4, 5, and 6 of that season, or would have been episodes 1 through 3. Oh, here we go. This was at the end of the thruway. Thank you. And yeah, it was nice to finally be out of the thruway, and now we were in. Or did we just No, we ended the thruway, and I think we ended up in Buffalo. Or did we just? Or no, I think we just. Yeah, we got off. I'm trying to remember where we are. Did we get off or did we get back on? No, we got off. Yeah. Yeah, we just got off the thruway and now we're in Buffalo. So, yeah, I'm trying to. It's hard to try to remember where we were, what we were doing, how this is all coming about, and I guess I should talk about what I did to pass the time while driving. Nothing but best of Game Grumps compilations, audio only, and music. That was it. That was what kept me awake, was listening to Game Grumps and listening to music. But when I got into Canada, it was some weird program I was listening to. But I guess we'll talk about more about that when we get into Canada. But it was some weird program, and almost put me to sleep. But again, more stories we'll talk about when we get to the Canadian section of this episode. For now, we are still in the lovely town of Buffalo. Yeah, so this would have been at about maybe 11, 12 at night when we got to Buffalo, and that's what they predicted. They were like, yeah, you're going to be in Buffalo by midnight, and you're going to be in Canada by 1 a.m., and you're going to be out of Canada by 5, 6 in the morning, and it was just a long trip. And my mother and stepfather just went through a similar trip. God, I want to say a couple weeks back, around New Year's. They took a similar trip. They were dropping off my brother and sister from, construction. My brother and sister from Michigan. They were dropping them off back in Michigan because they were here for the holiday season, and what was I about to say? I think they said because of the snowstorm, it made it 10 times worse for them. And it was lucky it didn't snow in the middle of August. That would have been 10 times worse for us too. But yeah, so now we're getting close to Canada. I think there's maybe a good couple miles. I know we're near one of the bridges, and it is weird driving through Buffalo at night, because it's a place you've never been to, and you don't want to get lost and get off the wrong exit and end up going, oh shoot, well, I should be here instead, and I'm here, and we did a lot of preparation for this. If you saw in the beginning of both parts, we had Mavis Discount Tires in the special things, and they were there because I think literally a week or so before this episode was filmed, the back tire on my Subaru flatted out, and we had to take it in to get repaired, and that was like $160 to get repaired. And but they got it done. They got it done before the trip, and it was nice to drive around in a car without a donut on it. Now we got other issues with the car, but another story for another time. So yeah, we're definitely getting close to Canada by this point. I think yep. I think it's like Canada 1 mile, so these curves sucked. And I guess I should start actually telling the Canadian stories now, because it is a lot of interesting stories. The first thing I will say, Canadian patrol boards, they will start off by speaking French to you, just to make sure, if you're fluent in French, you can speak to them in French. But if you're in English, speaking English, it's fine. But anyway, but no, that's the way they start out, and then see, here we are, we're in Canada now, and then and those are just the customs. But it was interesting to talk to him, and he's like, got anything to declare? I'm like, not really, no. Like, anything you're bringing with you? I'm like, just bringing some stuff over to Michigan. And he's like, okay. Where was I going with this? He went, your business in Canada? I'm like, I'm just heading through. He's like, okay. And yeah, it's not that hard. It's just, it is intimidating, because you don't want to sit there and go, well, I might have a bomb in the back. No. And the minute you go through Canada, it is like fucking Wonderland. First things first, your phone, if you do not have international roaming, or have it set up for international calls and shit like that, your data will go off, and you are stuck in hell. 2, they go by the metric system, so everything is by kilometers, not by miles. So believe me, it was tough trying to do all the conversions. I eventually had to turn my phone, the app I was using, into conversions for that. And then 3, there is no advertising of any kind when you're driving in Canada. It is so weird not seeing any advertising in Canada. Well, I mean, you pass through the big cities, but you don't see advertising for any buildings or any stores or anything like that. So that's like 3 interesting things right there. But here, where were we passing through? It wasn't Toronto. It was Ontario. And and it was just, it's so, Canada to me is like night and day. Once you go over the US to Canadian border, it is like night and day. You are immediately somewhere else, and you have no idea what you're doing. And trust me, there were times where I was about ready to go off the exit. I'm like, no, I don't want that one. Nope. And I would immediately have to backtrack and go, okay, no, I didn't want that. I want the next one. And driving in this place is insane. I think my reaction at the end of all of this, when we cut back to me in Michigan, perfectly sums up how I feel. Which is, we just got through insanity. I almost died. And just another freaking day in paradise. But it is weird and interesting, and would I ever go back? In the middle of the day, yes. Not in the middle of the night. Trust me, we've wanted to do a Montreal episode because Montreal is like 2 hours away from us, and that's always on the back burner. It's like, oh, you know, we could always do a Montreal episode or a Canada episode, or, you know, just like, you know, New York City, oh, we could always do an episode of that, and, you know, we've been talking about doing that and wanting to do it, and it's coming to fruition soon, and it's just a lot of things. But yeah, but like I said, US to Canada is like night and day. When you're in the US, you're like really comfortable with everything. Once you're over in Canada, it's like, okay, what am I doing now? I am completely lost. I have no idea what's going on. God, what is up with this? And I think in part 2, you could best summarize up how I feel about just heading back to Canada after dealing with all this. And, you know, a lot more stories in part 2 I'll tell. But for now, we're talking about all the stuff that happened in part 1. I did not stop for gas at any point in Canada. I just told myself, okay, the whole goal is we pumped up before we got in. We're just going to drive straight through Canada. We'll get gas when we get to Port Huron. And we literally stuck to that plan. And it worked. I think by the time we got to Port Huron, I think we were at maybe half a tank. And it was interesting that, you know, going through Canada, I was like, it wasn't much, you know, wasn't much in gas. But no, the Canadian gas stories would be in part 2, like I said. For now, it's just dealing with all this. Nothing but pitch black. See, there's no advertisements, nothing at all. It kind of gets boring. And, oh, I guess I should tell the big story now. So, when I was probably midway, near the end of Canada, driving through the highway, and of course, like I said, there's no signs, there's no lights, nothing, you can't really see much, so it's pitch black. The radio station I was listening to was CBC Radio, nothing going on there, it was political talk, but I put it on because I'm like, you know what, listen to Canadian radio, figure out what station to listen to, and that was the only one that came in clear. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll listen to this. Bad mix of combinations there. Oh, here we go.
Hello, it's Tony. We are
We're
now
in Canada.
Yes.
Bad mix of combinations, and
We have now entered
what
Canada
eventually
and
happened was there was a moment where I literally almost nodded off sleeping, and I woke up luckily, and I noticed I was over the white line heading close to the ditch, and I just turned out of the way. Luckily there was no one ahead of me and there was no one behind me,
This is Tony.
because this was at maybe about
It just got dark.
3, 4 in the morning.
See you guys later.
And yeah, so what happened was I literally almost passed out and drove myself into a ditch. That's how boring it got, because there was no real lights, there was no real advertisements, there was nothing. And I guess I should talk about my other thing. One of the other complaints I got during this driving was I pulled very far away from the toll booths, and I have no idea why I've done that. I don't know if it's just my, how do I put it? Space, like have an issue with determining space between one object and another object, or what. But this is the Blue Water Bridge in Michigan, so welcome back to the United States. It was interesting to be back home in the U.S. But anyway, yeah. So I almost ended up in a ditch because of Canada. It's one of those things I don't really like to talk about, and never decided to talk about again. And so I'm just gonna end that story and say, okay, back to the Michigan stuff, because it's always a lot of fun going back to Michigan. It was so weird being home. It was so weird being back in Michigan. It was so weird being in Port Huron. That's my reaction after driving through Canada. That would be my reaction. And we shot that at about 6 a.m. and the light was so fucking bright that I was able to crop out the outside and put pitch black in for the thumbnail. It was so weird. But the sun was out. It was so freaking bright. It was insane. We got some food. Got some milk. And downside was the milk, when I bought it from the gas station, was already spoiled. It was already spoiled milk, and I got it, and I didn't even realize it until I opened it. I'm like, whew. So yeah, I skipped out on milk. I luckily had some like Burger King and Dunkin's on me, so yeah, I brought food for myself for the trip so that I could have stuff to eat to keep me focused and keep me working and keep me moving. That didn't even work. But it was relatively eerie to be back home. It you get that feeling when you go away for a while and you come back and it's like night and day. I know I use that analogy for Canada and the U.S., but it is like night and day being far away and then being back home. And I believe this is the footage I am talking about. This is the footage where I took the footage of me returning and me going back to Canada and used it for the end. I don't know why. My simple guess is it got mixed up in the pile, and I must have thought it was driving footage to Posen. And of course it never was. It was driving footage for heading back to Canada. So I believe this footage got shown twice. But I mean, it's something I can't fix now. It's something I could just address. But yeah, it was interesting to be back home. It was it kind of felt a little odd, and of course a lot of things changed between the time I left and the time I came back. I guess I should talk about the speed limits. When I left, the speed for places like M65, roads like M65, M55, and US 30, US 23, and M32. I know I'm getting my roads mixed up. Those speeds were 55 miles an hour, and normally in Michigan, I guess all around. Now, some policemen have different tolerance levels, others don't. You're usually allowed to go 5 to 10 over, and I usually go 5 over, just playing it on the safe side in case I do get in trouble. Then I can say, well, I went 5 over, and I can understand. You're not gonna really charge me. You shouldn't really charge me though. I mean, the guy ahead of me is going like 70. Anyway, that was when I left. When I got back, I found out they had increased the speed limits So what were 55s became 65s, and what were like 45s became 55s, and it was just insane on my way back. Especially on these highways too, because the minimum was I think 60 or 65, and now it was 75, so you can go 75, 80 on these places. And here I am whizzing by at 70, at like 85 miles an hour, and I'm like, what sense does this make? Going 80, 85 miles an hour. But I can understand, some people just want to get to where they're going a lot faster. But at the same time, it was kind of insane. And I had a woman who was behind me on my way home to Michigan, and everything was kind of fine and good. I didn't really try to cause much trouble. I never did. And I stopped for a logging truck because I know better. Logging truck. And she stopped right by me, flipped me off, told me to go fuck myself, and I think her husband was filming it, and I'm just like, what do you want? I'm a Michigan native. I know it's a logging truck. I have to stop. I'm not going to go around a logging truck and just turn around them. No, that's stupid. And if that woman is ever watching, yeah, I consider you an a-hole. But I told my grandmother that story, and she's like, how insane are people? I'm like, yeah, they are. And I didn't get back home to Posen until like 11:30. And it was so nice to see everyone. The only downside was I didn't see Yosh, Nathan Wisniewski to you people, creator of New Gaming and Failure of Friends, and Adam, who is usually his co-star on Failure of Friends, and was one of the guys for hanging out at Walt Disney World, which I guess I could say in some ways was the precursor to this whole series, to both series. So yeah, it was so weird not seeing them, but I saw everyone else. And it was so nice catching up. It was so nice being home. It was just really, really nice being back in Michigan for at least a couple of days. But we have more Michigan stories to tell in the next part. So trust me, there will be a lot to tell about what happened, the aftermath of all of this. And yeah. So, but geez, I forgot it was 35 minutes. This is a really long episode. And the sad thing was, I actually was never intending, if I was to ever have done this, redo this again, I would have probably split this episode in half as well. Or at least done something similar where I'd split it in half, or just chopped out some bits, or sped that up, or slowed that down, but I mean, what can I do? It is so interesting to see all this again, and just tell myself, oh, yeah, that was a lot of fun, we did that, and we went off on this grand trip. It could have been a great season finale, just doing this two-parter. And there were talks at one point of doing this as a season finale, and just, saying, okay, we'll end with 4 here, and then we'll do the next season with, however many we decide to do that season. And instead we were like, no, let's just split this off and make it its own thing, and that's why Michigan Files briefly came back for a 4th season. But yeah, so that's part 1, and I'm Tony, and I'm signing out. I will see you all next time for part 2 of the Michigan Files returns.